The land of the dark. I live in a big city. High-rise buildings block out the sun from almost every direction. Because of this, I like to say I live in the land of dark. It's a bit hyperbolic, though. When the night arrives, we are practically left in pitch darkness. Although the streetlights do a fair job at illuminating our pathways. Like one might expect, nefarious things happen in the emptiness of the dark. Sometimes it's a robbery, and then again, sometimes it's much worse. The last thing I ever wanted to do is get caught up in a situation that was none of my business. So, I've learned to ignore my surroundings when it comes to people, which is an odd feeling, since I walk around a city of millions to only feel as if I'm the only one alive. To make matters more dire, I don't have a car. No need for one. Everything is pretty much walking distance, including my job. I work the graveyard shifts at a gas station, and I see the craziest things. Knife stabbing? Seen it. Shootings? Heard it. Hell, I've even seen rats attack one another. And for the most part, I look away. Life was stale. The stench of violence simmered in the air, but it was a smell I've grown accustomed to, desensitized to all the insanity. And I didn't mind it to stay that way, until I saw the man dressed in black. It was another late night shift. The time seemed to be ticking away at even a slower pace than usual. I flipped through a magazine, uninterested in the world outside, only lifting my eyes occasionally to make sure the person buying alcohol looked old enough. It must have been 2 a.m. when two guys walked in arguing with one another. One was saying something about the other's girlfriend. I don't know, I wasn't trying to listen, but I didn't have my earbuds on, so a little of the conversation seeped in. I squint my eyes more narrow, trying to focus in on the article I was reading about, on how I can get abs in under 6 minutes. But that's when the shouting commenced. The arguing had escalated. I surrendered my solace, ready to hold up the phone to the shoppers, indicating I was phoning for the police. As I held up the earpiece, I noticed it in the corner of the store. A strange figure. He was huge, at least 7 feet tall. Well, I believe it was a man. I really couldn't tell. The person was wearing an oversized black trench coat with the collar snapped up towards his fedora hat, it blocking his face. Though, I could see his yellow eyes protruding from the darkness. That much was evident. I don't even remember him walking into the store. And at first glance, you might think his outfit was a bit comical, if it weren't for how enormous the man was. The man's shouting sort of drifted into obscurity as my gaze remained on the strange figure. I was paralyzed from trepidation. I felt very uneasy, especially since it appeared as if he was staring right back at me. Bang! A thunderous gunshot rang throughout the store, snapped me out of my mesmerized slumber. Quickly, I saw one of the men that were arguing running out of the store, and the other laid still on the floor. Blood steadily flowed out of his apparent wound. The phone was still in my hand, and I rang for the police. My heart must have been beating practically 1,000,000 miles an hour. But then I remembered the man in the corner of the store. I looked up towards his direction, but he was gone. I frantically searched the aisles for his presence, but nothing. I even checked the stockroom, leaving me angst with pure dread. Ever since that day, I've noticed the man dressed in black roaming around our neighborhood. He doesn't seem to be following me. Rather, he always seems to be in the middle of some atrocious altercation, just watching with those menacing yellow eyes. I don't know if anyone else sees him. I still don't know if he even notices me. But I do what I've always done, and that is, I mind my own business. That tall figure only appears in the shadows, as if allergic to the light. I don't know where this person came from, and I don't know what it wants, but whatever it is, it has nothing to do with me. So I carried on like normal, ignoring the world that tried to intervene in my life, My eyes remained fixated ahead of me, one step at a time as the cloud of darkness hovered above. I purposely walked underneath the street lamps. I knew that was the only way the man dressed in black would not see me. Each early morning walking home was a bit of a journey. People would still be out partying from the night before, and sure enough, he would be close. Always watching. Relentlessly. Endlessly. For the most part, I got used to seeing him around, and almost felt comfortable. It's a bizarre feeling I can't explain, but I guess it's like watching a spider in the corner of your room. Its insidious presence is quite alarming, but not as frightening as long as you know where it is. Once it disappears from view, the most dreadful thoughts manifest themselves, and each dark corner carries a new meaning of fear. That's how the man made me feel. As long as I saw him watching from a distance, I knew he couldn't hurt me. Call me naive, or even call me crazy. Hell, I'll buy it. But no one ever seems to acknowledge him. Funny enough, no one ever seems to even acknowledge me. Coming home from one of my shifts, I entered my building as a cold breeze swirled around me. I gripped my long coat tightly as the warmth from my complex slowly inundated my body. I clicked the elevator button, stood there for several seconds, ready to fall into my bed as soon as I got home and sleep for hours. I was off the next day. That's when my neighbor Jennifer approached the elevator, standing next to me. I got a bit flustered since I had the hugest crush on her, but never even had the courage to tell her hi. She turned to me and offered a polite smile as we both stood there in the early morning, just waiting. I was surprised to see her out this early, or I guess you could say late. My mouth gaped a bit open as I tried my best to offer some courteous conversational piece. But as I stumbled over my own thoughts, the sound of the elevator chime echoed throughout the corridor. I practically felt like slapping my forehead for forfeiting such a perfect opportunity to talk to her. My eyes dropped down in pure defeat as the metal-tainted door slid open. She casually walked in as I shuffled my feet, trying to gather myself as I followed behind her. And with my head tilted down, is when I saw there was someone already in the elevator. That black trench coat that would slither across the floor. My eyes quickly shifted upwards, and there he was, lingering in the corner of the lift. The man dressed in black. As usual, his collar shifted upwards, connecting with his hat, only leaving a slit visible to me. Enough for me to make out his eyes. I froze in utter terror as I visibly began to tremble, still not completely in the elevator. That's when Jennifer looked at me with befuddlement, clearing her voice, suggesting to me if I was going to enter or not. Do you not see? I stuttered. She looked at me confounded. That's when I realized she couldn't see him. Maybe no one could. I cautiously stepped in and kept my back to the man dressed in black. I even closed my eyes, breathing in slowly, now understanding I was losing my mind. I was the only one that could see him. As the elevator slowly climbed up the building, I counted the floors in my head as my breathing became more heavy. With each floor, my breathing morphed into a hideous wheezing. I grabbed at my stomach, trying to stop the hard sound that I was making, not wanting to scare Jennifer. And as I held my breath, I realized the wheezing continued. The sound, that grotesque sound, wasn't coming from me. It was coming from him. Finally, we arrived to our floor. By this point, I was having a panic attack. As soon as the doors opened, I jumped out, startling Jennifer. I leaned my body against the wall as she walked out, looking at me with disapproval. Any shot of me ever having a conversation with her was gone. That's when that dreadful man came out of the elevator, it having to duck its head when exiting. I for sure thought this was it. This demon that I only could see was going to attack, destroy me from within. Honestly, I didn't know what to expect. I cradled my hands over my head as I shut my eyes tightly. But nothing happened. I opened my eyes to see where the monster went. It was following Jennifer as she carelessly walked to her apartment. That thing quietly followed. And then, like magic, it dissipated into the darkness of the corridor as she entered her apartment. It must have taken me another hour to garnish enough courage to enter my place, my eyes constantly shifting around, not wanting that man to surprise me. As soon as I got home, I fell onto my couch and slept like I hadn't slept for days. Waking up, I felt a bit dizzy, as if I had drank the night before. I did my best to shake off the uneasiness as I prepared myself for the day of doing nothing. That's when I heard the noises, the sounds that plagued the city I lived in, the land of the dark, as I called it. It were sounds of arguing. It was coming from Jennifer's place. I placed my ear up to the wall and soon recognized the other voice. The man she was fighting with. It was her on and off boyfriend, someone I despised. I walked away from the wall, ready to put my earbuds on to ignore the chaotic scene when, BAM! A gunshot rang out. The arguing stopped. The screams that vibrated the thin walls to my apartment were no more, and I could hear the sounds of ponderous footsteps storming down the hall. I opened up my door to only see Jennifer's boyfriend running away. I turned to Jennifer's apartment and saw the door was open. I knew what had happened. A scene all too familiar. I did what I always did. I was going to ignore it, call the police, and walk back inside. I'm no hero. I don't want to risk my existence for her. But before shutting the door to my apartment, I caught a glimpse of him down the corridor in the shadows. Those piercing eyes penetrating through the darkness. He was still there, as if he knew what was going to happen. I don't know who the man dressed in black is. I don't even know if he's even a man. Perhaps just an it. Some entity that only appears in the kind of world that we find ourselves in. A world of darkness. No, I'm not too sure if he causes these incidents, or he just watches them. But whatever it is, I know he will always be around in this land of ours, in this land of the dark. Hi guys, as usual, thank you for listening to my story. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment, leave a like, and definitely subscribe if you want to support my efforts to continue my writing, or I should say journey writing, because I've always kind of dabbled in writing all my life, but I started writing last year, so I'm barely getting into it. And I feel like the more I practice, the better I'll get. Just like my narrating, I think my narrating's gotten a little bit better too throughout the year, I should say. Anyway, I know I'm uploading this video kind of late. I don't know. Hopefully it doesn't affect the views too much. I like to try to keep a decent amount of views to keep me encouraged to keep making stories. Either way, hope you liked the story. I hope you had a great weekend. And I'm going to try to release another story for the 4th of July, so, fingers crossed I get one out. If not, I'll see you in the next video. And if I don't see you on 4th of July, happy 4th of July. Alrighty guys, that's it for me. Have a great week. Bye.